Little Will spends all his days being taught about the world and the magic by a ghost, Gus. Gus shows him the words of power which can create magic. He demonstrates it to Will by writing the ancient word for fire, which creates fire. Then he erases it using another word. There are several gods worshipped in this world, like the god of lightning and justice, the Earth Mother, fire and technology, and more. Other than Gus, Will has two other caretakers, a zombie named Mary, and a skeleton warrior named Blood. Blood and Mary make good food for Will, even though they can't eat it themselves. One night, Gus comments on how Will is very intelligent because he's already learned to read and write despite being only 3 years old. Will asks Mary how she'd baked the bread, but Mary says that it's a secret. Will thinks about how everyone here is keeping secrets, like why they never leave this place, why he's the only human here because the other 3 are undead, and why he hasn't met anyone else other than them. Will wants to ask them these questions, but he can't because he's also carrying a huge secret, that he has memories of his previous life. These memories are hazy and not clear, but he does remember wasting his life and not living it to the fullest. When he woke up, he could understand everything that was happening around him like a proper adult. One day, when Will was only 6 months old, Mary took him out to see some beautiful ruins of an abandoned town. Will believes that after living a human life that was wasted, God has given him a second chance, and this time he promises to live to the fullest. By the time Will is 8 years old, he has been learning swordsmanship with Blood and sorcery with Gus, while Mary teaches her about the dangerous monsters of this world called demons. The God of Dimensions has many such demons under his control, while the God of the Undead controls undead like Mary, Blood, and Gus. She says that the 3 of them used to be humans, but when they died, they held on to powerful attachments in this world, and made contracts with the God of the Undead. Later, Blood teaches Will how to hunt, but he has trouble making the finishing blow. Blood says that he does not enjoy killing either, whether they're people, animals, or birds. But killing them is necessary to survive in this world. Will thinks that Gus is really like a father to him. Later they have a little training and Will skillfully uses the magic that Gus taught him, but Blood is still too powerful for him. Blood advises him to focus on perfecting simple spells, as that is what Gus used to do a long time ago, eventually becoming a powerful sorcerer with the nickname the Wandering Sage. Gus says that Blood was also known as the War Ogre, and Mary was known as the Daughter of Mater. Will is taught that he should never enter the temple, while Mary is conducting her daily prayers. One day, Will sees Mary taking some bread out of the temple. So later, he goes inside and sees Mary in fire, much to his horror. He tries to save her, but the fire ends up burning him, and he becomes sick. Mary is regretful that she accidentally hurt Will, but Blood is angry at him for disobeying his orders. Will apologizes, and Blood congratulates him on rushing in to save Mary. Then Gus says that the bread they get is a gift from Mater, the Earth Mother goddess. But Mary catches fire when she prays to Mater because she is an undead. Apparently, he was a disciple of Mater, but when he made a contract with the god of the undead, Stagnate, that was like betraying Mater. So Mary asks Mater for forgiveness every day. Will asks her to allow him to pray with her so that he can understand the pain she has to go through just to obtain the bread he eats. By the time Will is 13, he is regularly praying with Mary. He still has scars from the incident. Mary could have healed them by praying to Mater, but Will chose to keep them because Blood said that they were a sign of his manhood. I mean, he probably has another sign of manhood. But anyways, Gus continues teaching him more and more, forcing him to memorize entire books within days. Blood also increases the intensity of his training. One day, he finds a low-level undead to train with him, but Will beats it quite easily. Seeing that Will is ready for new challenges, Blood takes him to the ruined city below for the first time in forever. They go into an underground passage, and Blood tells him to come out alive. Then, he leaves him alone. Will has to defeat some low-level undead right after. He realizes that this is the first time he's been properly alone since coming into this world. But he is determined to make it out of his alive so that Blood, Mary, and Gus can be proud of him. He comes across a demon that can also use the words of power. After a fight, he kills the demon but breaks his sword in the process. In its place, he gets the spear the demon was using. It turns out to be a dwarven magic spear. Suddenly, he sees Gus, but Gus is glaring at him in a terrifying way. Gus uses a spell and summons a golem that attacks him. But Will hits the word of power's marking and the golem crumbles. But Gus uses fast and powerful attacks, and Will has trouble keeping up, so he lunges straight at Gus but stops, asking if he has a good reason for trying to kill him. He says that he'd rather die than hurt his own teacher. Gus immediately smiles and congratulates him on keeping up a good fight. Later, they find out the name of the spear to be Pale Moon, with the ability to emit light magic and grow longer or shorter at will. Blood continues sending him underground for more experience fighting demons. Soon, the time comes when Will turns 15 and becomes an adult. Gus says that Blood will challenge Will to a duel to complete his training and welcome him into adulthood. Later, Blood and Mary tell him that when he turns 15, he should choose one of the gods as his guardian deity. Whichever god he chooses, it will be easier to develop the skills of that god. One day, Blood gets Will drunk, and they end up peeping into Mary's room while she's changing. Will gets a slap on his cheek, deservingly. Will also gets his first ever wet dream because of this. Soon, the day of Will's 15th birthday arrives, after which he'll be an adult. He wears armor and prepares for his duel with Blood. The rules are simple. No magic can be used. If anyone gets hurt, Mary will heal it with her blessings. The first person to give up or be unable to fight loses. Blood launches some heavy attacks which pushes Will back. So he uses a skill to jump on him and stab him, but Blood catches Will's sword with his ribs and pins Will to the ground. Will admits defeat. Mary scolds Blood for using his ribs to trap his opponent's sword. Apparently he used to do that even before he was a skeleton. Later, Blood congratulates him for putting up a good fight even though he lost. Will replies by calling Blood and Mary father and mother, which causes them to blush. As a sign of him reaching adulthood, Blood gives him the most powerful demon blade that he has, Overeater. If he cuts an opponent with it, Will can steal their life force to recover from his own injuries. Also, Overeater is powerful enough to kill the echoes of a god, which is basically a god's physical version. But he warns Will to be careful. The more he uses Overeater, the more he'll be dependent on it, until there's nothing left of him. Now that Will has reached adulthood, Blood tells him everything he needs to know about this world. Around 200 years ago, the High King of the Demons invaded this continent, along with other demon kings and thousands of terrifying demons. The good gods fought back, and their battles caused the entire landscape of the continent to change, making it different from what it was before. The King of the Demons could turn his blood into soldiers, and his own flesh into powerful commanders. And the weapon he used was Overeater, which he used to heal himself every time he created more armies. The city below them was the High King's base, and he attacked the entire continent from here. But Gus, known back then as the Wandering Sage, made a plan to take the underground routes and steal the High King's Overeater. Blood would be the one to fight him one-on-one while Mary kept them alive with her blessings. But when they reached the High King, he turned into a hideous warrior who was a much better fighter than Blood. Blood tried his best, but it was no use and they would all lose. Just then, the god of the undead, Stagnate, offered them a chance to become immortal undead, and in return, he would give them a seal that could trap the High King. They took the deal and sealed the High King beneath them. Now, they guard over the Hing King's seal. Because of their contract with Stagnate, they are unable to leave this area at all, not knowing what's happening with the outside world. Also because of this contract, Mary says that the Earth Mother Mater is angry with her. They had started to wonder, with humanity had died away, but one day they found Will as a baby brought here by demons as a sacrifice to resurrect the High King. But Blood saved him. And now Blood and Mary tell him to go find the human civilization nearby. Will dreams of building a family and bringing them back to meet his 3 mentors. But Blood and Mary start saying goodbye, like it's the last time they'll meet. Suddenly, the sky becomes dark and the god of undead, Stagnate, comes down and asks if they've said their goodbyes. He's here to take them to his dimension, and Blood and Mary are ready. Will tries to stop them, but he is unable to move. Just then, Gus appears in front of them, telling the others to run while he holds Stagnate back. Gus uses immensely powerful spells that Will had not even seen until now. He even manages to defeat this echo of Stagnate. They start talking happily when suddenly, Stagnate cuts Gus's body into 2. Turns out he had another echo body nearby. Stagnate says that Gus, Blood, and Mary made a deal with him to stay on Earth as long as they have an attachment to stopping the High King. But after raising Will for 15 years, they started to lose that attachment, and now they will be his servants completely. Will is shocked to hear that his bond with his mentors caused their attachment to this world to decrease. Stagnate also offers to turn him into an undead so he can live with the 3 of them forever. He gives him one day to decide. Will starts crying because he wanted to live this life properly, not like his previous life. But it was because of him that the three of them lost their attachment to the High King. The next morning, the other three wake up with high spirits. They say that Gus destroyed one of Stagnate's echoes. They believe that if they work together, then they can defeat the other echo, which will come back tonight. Will then tells them his secret, that he has memories of his past life where he completely wasted his life. So, he wanted to live his life better, but here also he ended up harming his three mentors. But Mary slaps him and urges him to stand tall and be strong. That night, Will prays to the virtuous gods for protection. He goes to meet Stagnate and tells him that he will never join him. So, Stagnate summons his undead to fight him, but Will fights them back with a lot of skill, impressing Stagnate. So, Stagnate offers him the position of a general in his army, and he will also become an undead immortal and live forever with his three mentors. But he will have to make a contract with Stagnate by drinking his blood. Will approaches him but uses Overeater to slice him several times, as Overeater has the power to kill God's echoes, but Stagnate quickly uses a snake to poison him and make him unconscious. Will ends up in a dreamy place where a woman in white approaches him. This is the goddess of light. Gracefeel, and Will remembers meeting her before in this same place. Gracefeel asks him why he refused Stagnate's offer. Will replies how passive and pathetic his previous life was, so he wanted to take a stronger approach in this life. Being alive and not being dead are not the same, he says. He wanted to live and die alongside his three mentors. Gracefeel is impressed with Will's answer. So she promises to be his guardian deity as long as he does not forget his resolve. Will wakes up back on the battlefield, this time with the blessings of Gracefeel. He wipes away the undead with one swing of his sword. Seeing that he has the blessings of Gracefeel, Stagnate goes towards the temple where his three mentors are. Will runs after him. He finds Stagnate trapping Gus and ready to grab blood, but suddenly an echo of another goddess appears in between. This is the Earth Mother, Mater. Mater turns to Mary and smiles. They realize that Mater never hated Mary and had forgiven her a long time ago. The only one who needed to forgive Mary was herself. In the confusion, Blood attacks Stagnate and he dodges. So Will rushes at him. Stagnate tries to use magic, but Gus cancels his spells. Then Will stabs Stagnate and slices him multiple times with Overeater until he disappears. Stagnate vows to turn him into his side no matter what. The three of them start to celebrate, but suddenly Blood and Mary are unable to walk. This is because they have lost their attachment to the High King but refuse to go with Stagnate, meaning they will soon die now. Will starts crying, saying that he wants to spend more time with them. He wants them to meet his children and grandchildren, but Blood and Mary ask him to accept that they're leaving. Blood advises him to be wild and free, while Mary advises him to be kind and just and to protect the weak. As they give their parting advice, Will gets to see their human spirits for the first time. Gus brings a 200-year-old wine and they drink happily as a last goodbye. That night, Blood and Mary pass away and Gracefeel takes their souls back into the cycle of death and rebirth. The next day, Will buries their bodies. Gus is still alive as he has an attachment towards guarding the High King's seal. He made a deal with Gracefeel to stay alive for at least 10 years. After 10 years, Stagnate will regain his powers and come back. Then Gus gives Will his treasure that he has been collecting for 200 years, but which is of no use to him. He sends him to the outside world and tells him to spread the good name of Gracefeel because apparently the outside world has stopped worshipping her. Will prepares to leave. Gus says that Will need a last name, so he gives Will the full name of William G. Merryblood, named after his three mentors/parents. After saying their goodbyes, Will G. Merryblood leaves the temple for the first time in his life. And it's only been half the season. More adventures to come. As a little flashback, we see Blood and Mary preparing for their final battle against the High King. They promise to marry each other if they survive. And if they have a son, then they will name him something that represents unbending will. Blood chooses William, which means the helmet of Will. Back to the present, Will continues on his journey, but does not meet any humans for a long time, only animals and demons which he defeats with ease. One day, he comes across another ruined town, which makes him really happy, but it seems to be deserted as well. He prays to Gracefeel to bring peace to the souls wandering these lands, and immediately, lots of souls rise up and disappear. He continues his journey in the forest when suddenly, he is attacked by an injured boar. In self-defense, he kills the boar. Suddenly, a hunter comes at him with his bow and arrow ready. This is the first person Will has ever met other than his mentors. The person reveals their face, and it turns out to be a half-elf named Manel. Since Manel injured the boar, but Will finished it off, they negotiate with each other and Will gets the leg. Then they cook the liver and eat it. Will prays to Mater and Gracefeel before eating, much to Menel's surprise because Gracefeel is considered a minor god. Then Manel shows him the way to the next town and returns to his own home. He summons some fairies and goes into the forest. That night, while Will is sleeping, Gracefeel gives him a divine revelation about something bad happening to Manel. So Will goes to his village using his magic to find Manel's footsteps. Just as he reaches the place, some hidden raiders attack the villagers, so Will saves them. But he sees that the arrows have white feathers. Turns out, this is not Manel's village. Manel is the one attacking with his group of men. Manel uses lots of magic against Will, but Will was trained by the legendary Blood and Gus. And the dude recently just fought a god. He fights back quite easily and knocks out Menel and his men. The village chief interrogates them. Menel and his men are from a nearby village, but demons destroyed their people and took their food. They had no way of surviving the winter, so they turned to stealing. The villagers scream at them to hang them all. The chief sympathizes with them, but for the safety of the village, he must hang them. Will also agrees because if they are released, then they will just attack another village. But Will remembers Blood and Mary's lessons to be kind and to do the right thing. So he offers the money to prevent bloodshed and compensate for the loss, saying that Menel and his village, which has suffered from demons, should not be punished but protected. He also vows to free Menel's village of the demons. Then he says that this is due to Gracefeel's kindness, and suddenly the whole place is filled with beautiful lights. Then the survivors of the other village come to this village, while Will and Manel go there to reclaim it from the demons. They finally reach the village where the demons are conducting some sort of ritual with human corpses. Will rushes in and defeats them with ease. They go around the village looking for survivors, but everyone seems to be dead. Suddenly, they find a child who has turned into an undead. Manel is shocked to even touch him, but Will holds him without a second thought. Manel finally holds the child's hand and Will prays to Gracefeel to give him peace. The child's spirit flies up and Gracefeel takes him. Manel apologizes to Will because he thought Will was just a rich and spoilt brat. But now he sees that Will has lots of wisdom and experience. They pray to all the undead villagers and their spirits find peace. Next, they go to the village wise woman. Marple rhymes with marble. Marple turns out to be a high-class ghost. Somehow she senses that Menel tried to steal and kill the neighboring villagers, and she scolds him saying that he has a good heart underneath. Menel breaks down, saying that the life of a half-elf is too long, as he always lives longer than his loved ones. But Marple reminds him that the gods will always love him, even if he does not love them back. Then, she tells them that there's a bigger demon army in the mountains. After giving this information and wishing farewell to Manel, Marple passes into the afterlife. Some days later, the surviving villagers return to their village. After mourning the dead, they bury their dead and start rebuilding their village. Later, Will says that he'll be going to fight the undead army that Marple was talking about. Then, Manel tells him his story of how his mother had a baby with some stranger, which caused him to be a half-elf. He was shunned by everyone, so he left and went through many adventures. He almost died once, but Marple saved him back when she was young, but most humans that he knows are now dead, so he regrets having a long life. Then Manel thanks Will for stopping him before he killed people. He asks to work under his spiritual guidance and receive Gracefeel's blessings through him as a way to atone for his sins. Will accepts his devotion. He thinks back to Blood and Mary and wonders if he's found his first friend. The village has lost its cattle to the demons, and they have no money. So, Will and Menel plan to go to the nearest town of White Sails to buy some cows and horses. Suddenly they see a trader named Tonio and his partner, a halfling named Robina, being attacked by a giant gorilla. Will stares at it in the eye until it backs away. Tonio and Robina are traveling to White Sails. So, Will and Manel agree to escort them. Robina is also a bard and she is fascinated by Will's noble-sounding name, his strength and his devotion to Gracefeel. In the next town, Robina plays sweet music while Tonio sells their items, and Will heals the people through the power of Gracefeel. That night, Robina sings the tale of the three heroes, Blood, Mary, and Gus, without realizing that Will was raised by them. According to her songs, there was once a village constantly attacked by a wyvern. The people chose a half-elf girl as a sacrifice, but the three heroes decided to help them, especially after the half-elf's friend offered the little money he had to save her. The day of the sacrifice arrives, and the three heroes kill the wyvern quite easily. The boy and the half-elf girl can no longer go back to their village, so they decide to run elsewhere. The three heroes give them gifts to help them, including a magic dagger, and they tell them to make a big name for themselves. Robina says that there was a count in the Fertile Kingdom whose surname is Wizard's Dagger. He passed away some time ago, but in his mansion, there is an elderly half-elf waiting to meet the three heroes again. Hearing this heart-touching tale, Will starts crying. He is really happy that there are still people in this world who remember his three mentors. On the way to White Sails, Tonio says that the king's brother, Prince Ethelbald, is actually in White Sails right now. Apparently, he is a wise and strong person. They finally reach White Sails, and Will sees it as a symbol of the places that Blood, Mary, and Gus gave their lives to protect. Will is fascinated by the city, which is almost entirely run on words of power. Next, they go to the temple to pay respects. However, there are no priests for Gracefield, as she's considered a minor god around here. He meets Bishop Bagley. Bagley is a rude fellow, and he is suspicious of Will. But Will's dedication and answers seem to satisfy him, so he accepts Will's name into the registry. Later, Will and the group are lying around when they hear the emergency bell. It's a wyvern attacking the town. People get injured, and there is chaos and confusion. Will starts panicking because these people are the ones that his mentors gave their lives to protect. So he recklessly starts using high-level words of power at it. Manel scolds him, telling him to be smarter about this. So they work together to use various spells to bring the wyvern down in front of the temple. Will stabs with all his strength, but it does not die. It starts breathing fire. So Will grabs it by the neck and puts it into a chokehold until it dies. Robina quickly starts praising him in a song. This grabs the attention of Prince Ethel, and he calls them. Ethel congratulates them for killing a wyvern, but Will does not feel that much of an accomplishment. Ethel offers him a reward, so Will asks him to hunt down the demons that are threatening Menel's village. But Ethel says that their armies are spread too thin to cover all their domain. Also, Menel's village doesn't really fall under his domain. Will asks if he can hire mercenaries and deal with the demons himself, but Ethel is reluctant, as that would mean allowing Will to control a small private army. But Will makes an earnest request, and the prince is impressed, like everyone else. Just then, Bishop Bagley forces himself into the room, saying that Will is a registered priest of the temple, and he cannot be harmed. Ethel suggests that they promote Will into a knight, since he's already a high priest, and combining that with a knight would make him a paladin. The temple and Prince Ethel would have equal authority over Will, and would equally support him. Despite his loud and rude nature, Bagley says that he will consider the offer and takes Will away from Ethel. That night, Bagley prays sincerely to the gods, and Will is impressed by him. Apparently, Bagley never uses the powers of blessing that he received from his divine protection, so Will asks him why. Bagley says that blessings are meant to work towards the gods, not for their own little conveniences. He reveals that he acts rudely and loudly to ensure that the temple remains strong and no one will try to take advantage of it. Will starts seeing the wisdom of Bagley and feels a deep sense of respect for him. Then, Will and Menel go to the pub looking for adventurers. They put a low reward so that people who do it for the money won't come to them. They need people who will do this for the glory. Everyone laughs at them. Everyone except a rugged warrior named Raystoff. Will uses Blood's lessons and looks at Raystoff's hand, seeing that it belongs to an experienced warrior. Raystoff accepts Will's offer of this dangerous job, and a few other adventurers also accept the job. Raystoff is known as Raystoff the Penetrator, and Robina is huge fan. She asks to hear his tales to write her songs, but Raystoff does not like to boast of his adventures. The next day, Prince Ethel turns Will into a knight. Then the vice bishop officially announces him as a paladin. Then Will and Menel gather a lot of men and supplies and take them to Menel's village. Tonio handles all the finances that help the village get back on its feet. Bishop Bagley also sends several skilled priests with him to heal the people. While Raystoff and the other adventurers hunt down any demons nearby, Will works as an arbitrator or middleman in the event of any disputes between the villagers. They also help develop the other villages nearby. Over time, all the villages in that area start prospering. One day, some of their adventurers do not return for a long time. So, They go to look for them. They find them dead in the mountains, and the footprint of a giant monster nearby. They bury 3 of the men, but it's actually a trap. Hundreds of demons surround them. Will and Manel cast protective magic over the party members, and they being their battle. Suddenly, from behind them, they are attacked by the biggest demon, a chimera. The chimera knocks down Manel and burns him with purple fire. Will tries to call lightning, but a demon interrupts him and the lighting hits him instead. Will becomes crazy with anger and brings out Overeater, using it to cut and slash without using any of the techniques he learnt from Blood. He fights carelessly, because Overeater will heal him anyways. Will is disappointed in himself for losing control like this. Raystoff brings him back to his senses and sends him to heal Manel. Will begs the goddess Gracefield to heal him. Will wakes up sometime later in a village nearby, being taken care of by Raystoff, who says that the chimera ran away. Later, Will overhears some villagers talking about how Will is really powerful, like a monster himself. Will smiles when he hears that. Will then starts feeling guilty for putting Manel in so much danger. He goes to Manel and heals him with Gracefield's blessings. Then he apologizes to him for putting him in so much danger. Gracefield appears before him, and he reassures her that everything is fine and he will continue to fight for her name. Then, he goes to fight the chimera alone. Manel tries to stop him, but Will says he can't keep up with him. Manel tries to beat him up, but Will dodges all his attacks. He breaks one of Manel's arms to get him to stop following him. But Manel gets up again. He uses his own fairy magic to knock down Will and then calls him a coward for trying to solve everything himself. He says that they're friends, and that really hits Will in the heart, in a good way, of course. Manel says that he will never abandon his friend. He admits that he's not as strong as Will, but he promises to be stronger and prove that Will is not a monster. Will starts crying out of happiness. They return back to the village and Will apologizes to everyone for worrying them. Then, they prepare to fight the chimera and its other demons. Will promises the other adventurers silver and gold coins for every demon they kill. They gather a large force and go back to that valley. The same demons attack them, and they fight an epic battle. Everyone uses words of powers, divine blessings, and raw fighting skills to push the enemy back. Will admits that he could not have done this alone. Will and Manel eventually reach an old abandoned monastery where the chimera is waiting for them. Will asks the chimera if it's looking for the High King, and the chimera indirectly says yes. Their intention is probably to undo the seal of the High King, which Gus is guarding right now. The chimera launches a surprise attack, but Will and Manel use all their skill and techniques to attack it little by little. Instead of using flashy killing blows, Will goes for simple and effective techniques, just like his 3 mentors taught him. After taking down its heads one by one, they finally finish off the chimera. They enter the monastery to defeat the final demon boss, but Raystoff has already come inside and killed the demon boss. This apparently aligns with his personality, as Raystoff is known for killing super powerful demons without even letting anyone know how he did it. After the battle, the villagers work together to develop the lands. Manel says that the temple has decided to build a shrine for Goddess Gracefield here. Then, Manel says that Will is like a lord for all the villages in that area. Will does not see how that could possibly happen. Manel says that it's already happened. Will has been the central figure in helping to develop all the villages in that area. He has been the one to fund the money for their development. He has been the one to lead a small army and clear the demons disturbing the area. He's pretty much the lord of this domain. He just has to take official responsibility. Will is shocked by this huge revelation, as his main intentions were to just help the people. But he gets a vision of Gracefield smiling at him, so he takes the job. He hopes that one day he can bring civilization to the old town where Gus is guarding the seal, so that old and ruined town can see people and hear the laughter of children again. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.